Well, we've seen that in the case of the companies, we've seen people, we've seen technostress, the conditions which cause technostress. They're associated with lower job satisfaction, lower commitment to the organization, lower innovation on the task using the technology. Even when there's no technology involved, it causes lower sort of performance in your other parts of the job, even those which are not technology mediated.
Welcome to Digital Mindfulness, and I'm your host, Lawrence Sampofo. I'm delighted to present Professor Monideepa Tarafdar. Monideepa is Professor of Management Science at the University of Lancaster, and she's also a research associate at the MIT Sloan School of Management. She focuses on the ways that information technologies and systems impact both individuals and organizations. She focuses particularly on the maladaptive uses of IT and their impacts on individuals and organizations, and calls this process technostress. You should listen to this if you want to learn more about the cutting-edge ideas and insights behind information overload. But first of all, welcome to Digital Mindfulness, where we bring together the best teachers and thought leaders to teach you how to be your best self in the age of digital distraction and information overload, both at work and in your personal life. If you're new to our show, then the best place to find out more about us is to visit digitalmindfulness.net/start, which is a collection of some required listening podcasts where we discuss everything from becoming more focused in a distracted world to habit building, overcoming digital distraction, cyberbullying, internet addiction, online influence, and much more. Anyway, on with the show with Monideepa Tarafdar. So Monideepa, welcome to Digital Mindfulness, and thank you so much for being with us here today. I'm really excited to have you share with us these insights and learning a bit more about what Technostress is about. So welcome.
Thank you, Lawrence, for inviting me on your talk.
So now I'm wondering if you can give the audience a greater sense of yourself and also your motivations to be working on, as you put it, the dark side of technology, and also about this book, Technostress.
Well, technology itself is neither dark nor black, or it's probably dark and white and all shades in between, simply because the effects of technology use emerge from an entanglement of the technology's features and our values and our preferences in using them. So there is a dark side to technology, but only in the way that we use it. About 10 years ago, we started seeing some phenomena which were pretty new at that time, in that we saw people using work email during holidays and getting stressed about it and angry about it, not being able to do anything. People were starting to get connected 24/7, which is pervasive today, but it wasn't so at that time. And when we started investigating these sorts of things that we saw with colleagues and friends and family members really around us, we realized that there was a lot of talk of stress from technology. There was not much research on it. There was not much academic research on it, which people could draw from and apply to companies. So stress had been around for a long time. So stress have been studied. The topic of stress has been studied since the 50s and 60s, really. So this was something new. People didn't know that technology could cause them stress in a way that other things could cause them stress. So we did some studies. We had a great group of colleagues, and we conducted a couple of studies in a few organizations, and we saw in those studies that just as your other stuff in the company, like your role, like your job, these things can cause you stress, in a very similar way, the way you use technology and the features of technology that you find useful, these very features can cause you to be stressed out. And we called it Technostress, and those early publications were about the creators of Technostress, some of the mitigation mechanisms, and things like that. Since then, of course, the phenomena has become much more pervasive. People have started talking about it much more. There's been much more interest, and now I think we are on the rising cycle of this phenomena, where there's much greater awareness now. a lot of people want to know about this and how you can tackle it.
I mean, this is really interesting. This whole idea of technostress, and you said that there are certain, I guess, characteristics that people say, gosh, this is the technology that's really impacting me. But I'm really interested to know, like, what are the characteristics of technostress? What are these different facets that cause us to feel more stressed in the workplace?
So there are a number of so technology has these characteristics, right? It's reliable, it's present all the time, it's portable nowadays, it's easy to use. So these some of these characteristics, when we get them at our fingertips, we can feel a number of things. For instance, we feel that we are overloaded with technology. We feel we have to do a lot more work. Even though you think that, for instance, even though you think that your phone is very easy to use, you know that you have to do a lot of work simply to keep up with the phone. Keep it clean, make sure the memory is there, make sure all the updates are okay. So you feel techno overloaded. And this is, we study technostress in the workplace mainly. So in the workplace, we realized it was not just the phone, even the applications we use. Because we have to use them, we have to do a lot of stuff just to keep up with them, upgrades, new features, things like that. Then there's also this aspect of complexity. Now, the more technology gets easier to use, we think that, well, it's not going to take time, but it does. So even a simple thing like if you have an internal company portal, let's say, and you're used to navigating your way around it, and suddenly one morning you get up and you find that something has changed. The links that you're used to, they're on a different page or they're in a different place. And the email that was sent to you was buried in, some Friday communication from your company, which you didn't even bother to see simply because it was not in your face, right? And so you suddenly say, oh, this is complex. I have to spend half an hour or 1 hour just figuring out where all my stuff is, right? Even when we are, stepping away from the workplace, even if you look at something like Facebook, they have so many privacy features, so many little things which we don't understand. And sometimes we don't use them in the proper way. For instance, we don't have some of the privacy features turned on, and suddenly something happens, and then you go back and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this, and they keep changing. So there are, all sorts of things which make technology complex, even though on the face of it, it seems easy, right? Then there are these invasive effects. You're connected 24/7. If you don't have a good sense of how to deal with that, your life can get overwhelming. And we've seen people, and a lot of us do this, we check email at 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't know how to manage the thing. Email becomes a source of stress. There's lots of studies which say email is a source and a symbol of stress. Then you can also have something like, we call it there's techno overload, there's techno invasion, there's techno complexity. And then there is uncertainty. We call it techno uncertainty. And that means that you don't know where the next change is going to come from. Every few months, there's a new technology, organizations adopt it, and all of a sudden things change, right? That is very stressful. So these are some of the aspects of techno stress. And they pretty much tell you that, yes, all these features are great, but the very features which are useful, those very features can be instrumental in the individual feeling stressed out.
So I'm really curious. So if once a person reports that they feel this techno stress, that they're really aware of it, what are some of the effects of techno stress, both for the business and for people?
Well, we've seen that in the case of the companies, we've seen techno stress, the conditions which cause techno stress, they're associated with lower job satisfaction, lower commitment to the organization, lower innovation on the task using the technology. Even when there's no technology involved, it causes lower sort of performance in your other parts of the job, even those which are not technology mediated. We've seen it leads to sort of lack of use. Sometimes you just give up using the technology at the workplace. And sometimes, of course, you don't have a choice. You have to keep using it. So all of these other effects happen. And over time, if your performance goes down or if your satisfaction goes down, that is going to cause problems for the company as well. There'll be outcomes at the level of the company. And yeah, that's what it is, which is why it's so important to study it and make sure that you understand what's going on.
It's really interesting, isn't it, this whole discussion you and I are having now of technostress, because it wasn't very long ago that all of the media, the technology media, was talking about this word digital disruption, and that companies and people had to be disruptive, and it's interesting now that you say that it's this kind of headlong rush to adopt technology and to be disruptive. Maybe this is a source of technostress.
Yes, and this disruption is not new. We've been disrupting. We've been disrupting for the last 30 years, I would say. Those of us who studied technology and its uptake in companies, we know that every 2 years there's something. Every year there's something. And it just seems like we are living in a world where disruption is happening, but disruption has been happening for a long time. What is new, what is perhaps a little different about this is it's happening at scale. And the connectivity that has become so characteristic of the current workplaces, that connectivity can quickly scale up any disruption. So if one company does it, the fact that we all get to know about it very quickly, information travels fast, it's a lot of stuff is available in the open domain these days, it kind of scales it. So the disruption is happening at scale and at great speed, because information transfer is fast. Disruption happens faster because you get to know what people are doing, your competitors are doing, and because of connectivity, you can just scale it up, right? So yes, I don't think this is going to stop, because we are going to have new technologies all the time, and rather than, or instead of, or in addition to saying we are switching off, which is often not an option, you have to do something alternate.
You were mentioning at the beginning of the talk about the ways that technostress, that we feel often that we have to do more work, and I'm wondering, this is something that employees feel or workers feel, but does that pressure also come from the top down? Do you think bosses also feel that, my God, we've spent all of this money on technology, we have to be working harder?
Yes, technology is expensive, it's painful, it's difficult. Right? Even if it's easy, even if it looks easy or seems easy, technology implementations are never easy. You have to go through a lot of resources and time to get things working. And naturally, you want to look at the ROI. And you want to say, what did I get out of this technology? Companies spend anything between 3 to 20% of their revenues on technology, depending on what sector you're in. And yes, you want to use it. You don't want to implement something which is not going to be used. It's useless, right? So given all of this, goes back to my earlier point, stepping off is not often an option. And you have to be competitive in the marketplace, because you're getting so much benefit out of these technologies. You don't want to say, I'm going to be the one with the head in my sand, with my head in the sand, and not look at what people are doing. So that's not an option. If you're to remain competitive, or even if you're not in a competitive space, if you're to serve your customers better, even if, let's say, you're a government agency and you don't have competition, but you want to provide good services, so technology has to be used. But then that's where you have to be careful to look at the other side and say, there's this side and there's the other side, there's the bright side and there's the dark side, and there's all shades in between. In our company, what do you do about it? How do we go about understanding this and addressing this and managing this?
So would you say that that there's almost like a unique way to deal with this technostress in every single company?
Well, there are some general principles, but of course, those general principles have to be contextualized to the organization. So if someone were to say, I'm going to provide help desk training, well, what kind of training will depend on what kind of employees you have. We can give a general prescription saying, yeah, if you make your employees trained, if you train your employees on this, and this, then yes. But then that depends on who my employees are. For instance, let's say a company has two different divisions. One division may be very tech savvy, the other division may be less tech savvy. So there has to be tailor-made mechanisms for each division, for each company. But yeah, there are some general principles which could apply. and then you sort of particularize those to the setting.
One of those general principles that we were talking about in the pre-interview was this whole idea of digital detoxing. And I know that there are some very, very big companies that insist on, for example, shutting off email after a certain time for employees. And I'm wondering, what do you think of approaches like that?
Those are the first sort of obvious approaches that come to mind. If people are overusing email stress has been written about a lot. So, and email is something which we all use, and it's not going away, and it's been there for a long time. So email has been the focus of a lot of managerial efforts to contain technostress in the company, right? So this is sort of, when you say I'm going to shut off the servers after 6 o'clock, that's a very obvious and a first cut thing that you can do. And yes, you're right. Some companies do that. They say, well, you shouldn't, even if they don't do it formally, there are informal sort of cultural mechanisms which direct you to not use email after a certain time, right? Your coworkers will come, and I've had people coming and saying, there's no policy in the company, but my coworkers don't like it if I send them email at night. So whether formally or informally, that's a first cut and a very obvious solution. Not solution, but a very obvious tool and a mechanism. But it's like going the other way. So you're going from one extreme to the other. And what you really need to do is when you do that, you're not leveraging the asynchronicity and the convenience of email. You're just saying, I'm going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that over time, it does not work. It does not work for everybody in the company.
Mm-hmm. It is really interesting because, I mean, as I'm sure you know, the UK Ofcom report came out recently, and it said that there are many, I think, is it 1 in 3 Britons has tried this digital detox, and it's kind of it's a solution that's on vogue at the minute, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's in the news. People are talking about it. I've talked about it in other forums. But as I said, it's just one thing, and over time, I don't think it's sustainable.
So to flip it over then, which organizations have you seen that are actually taking really interesting or innovative approaches to technostress?
Well, there's a lot of, but you see, there's lack of research in this. I mean, innovative approaches, right now we're at the stage is where people are learning about it. They have learned about it, or it's been out there for some time, and companies are realizing that it exists. It is something that affects their employees, and hence it affects them. In terms of approaches, some of these one-shot solutions or one-size-fits-all, shut off email, or have email-free afternoons. Companies are doing some things like that. Some of them are innovative, and come to think of it, even saying that I'm going to have a digital detox, let's say digital detox afternoon, one Friday afternoon, that's pretty innovative because you have not ever thought about it before, right? So yeah, they're taking small steps, and those are good steps to take because it increases your awareness and it makes you ready for, more sort of involved and more, more sensible approaches as well, more higher level approaches. Now that is where we have research which is lacking. So, we are not seeing too much at that level. But yes, we are seeing companies understanding this, becoming aware of this, and at least saying we'll have Friday afternoon, email-free Friday afternoons. Even something like that is quite innovative because, think about it. You're stopping email for an afternoon, but what we don't realize is, okay, what happens when you go back at 5 o'clock, right? How much email are you going to have in your inbox, and what are you going to do about it?
Which in itself is stressful.
Which in itself is stressful, right? So it may just be that, that is so stressful that even when you're detoxing, you're like thinking about, okay, when I get back to my table or to my phone or whatever it is, how much email am I going to see, right? So there's a lot of research to be done in this area. We haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg yet, is what my feeling is.
Do you think that technology has a role to play in reducing technostress? So these different technologies like internet blockers or even specific program blockers like email blockers,
yeah. Technology has a role to play. I mean Microsoft Outlook has this thing where you can switch off notifications, right? You can say I don't want to be notified, or you can say I'm going to set out to send my emails at 8 o'clock in the morning instead of whenever I'm looking at them at night. So there are technology features can help you at least be mindful of what you're doing. And even if it cannot take away the stress, it can at least nudge you towards different things which you can do.
So, I've got my penultimate question, which is, in this age of constant connectivity, what do you think are the most important human qualities, and how do we cultivate them?
Ah, yes. See, human beings. See, the reason why we so embrace these technologies is we are social people. We want to connect. We want to connect to others. We want to connect to the world, and there's been so many people, so many philosophers who've said people are not islands, and which is true, right? So the idea is not to not connect, but idea is to connect to things which you find interesting and meaningful, which will make you, more productive, more innovative, whatever it is in the workplace. And as I said, there's not much research there. You can study. I don't know how people, before all of this, we did connect. We did connect in various ways, and we connected slowly. We connected with fewer people. Uh, I don't know if it's the answer to say, well, we don't want to connect with everybody. Well, when you connect with more people, like you and I, we connected electronically. I've never seen you. You've never seen me. And if we hadn't these technologies, we wouldn't be talking about this. So there are, definitely upshots to being able to connect, right? But as I said, we don't want to swing from one end of the pendulum to the other. That would not be sensible, right? And so there is no, this would be a good, place to look at, what companies are doing. And if you know of any companies which are doing innovative stuff, I would be very happy to talk to them.
So I'm really interested to know that now that you've written Technostress, what is the future? What are you going to be working on next now in regards to technology and work-life balance?
That's a great question. Yes, we are now aware of the dark side. Now we need to know what to do about it, right? And so my next projects are about understanding how to handle this dark side. What can employees do that works for them, and what do they do that doesn't work for them in the workplace when they're dealing with these stressful effects of technology and the effects of technology on well-being. So I have a Lever Hume funded fellowship for the next year where I'm going to be investigating these questions. And any organization, any company that is interested in answering or interested in investigating this as a setting and would like to participate in this research, I would be very happy to talk to them. Please feel free to contact me, or please definitely contact me on my, you can go to my website and look at my email ID, and just send me a note, and I'll be happy to work with you, and so that we can all understand how individuals and employees and managers and leaders can tackle these effects of technology, both good ways and bad ways.
That's great. So, where can people find out more about you and your work and connect with you?
Well, I've got Lancaster University's homepage. My homepage is, it's Lancaster University in the UK. So if you go to www.lancaster.ac.uk and you look for the management school, and there I'm a professor in the Department of Management Science in the management school, and in that department you'll see everybody's web pages, and mine will be there. You can find, it has details about my research, what I'm currently doing, and it also has my email. So those are ways to connect to me.
Fantastic. Monideepa, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you and have you on the show and talking about this whole idea of technostress and the dark side of technology. But thank you for spending time with us today.
Yep. Thank you. My pleasure.